You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Sabria Butler, this is Matt Priest. Thanks for joining us and joining me on this edition of Shoe and Show. I'm always glad to share the mic with you. I hope you're doing well. How are things on your end?
Yeah, they're going good. I'm excited about the new year.
That's good. And I think as we're into February, there may be a statute of limitations on how long you can say Happy New Year, but I think that probably is by the time we get to March. So I will continue to wish people Happy New Year even in February. But that being said, one of the things I think you and I are both extremely proud of is the Black Footwear Forum and just the movement it has become through both a pandemic and then on the other side of a pandemic. And you work extremely hard behind the scenes to make it happen. But we also do it with some really dear friends of ours who help us accomplish the vision that I think we collectively have and the desire and passion we have for the project collectively. And so we have one of those friends on today. So I would love for you to introduce who our guest is today.
Yeah, so today we have Mr. Dion, who has been somewhat my partner in crime in all things Black Footwear Forum. We have meetings nonstop, and he's been a force in just the success of the Black Footwear Forum. If you don't know by now, Black Footwear Forum is back, and we had an awesome year. Last year, 2022, lots of success, and a lot of that was due to all the hard work that Dion did. And so I'm super happy to have him on today. We have a brand new project that the Black Footwear Forum is getting ready to release, and he will be a part of it. And I'm excited for him to talk a little bit more about that and what to expect.
Yeah, no, thank you both for having me on, Matt and Sabria. To say the least, last year was, a great time. Looking forward to doing the V2 of it this year and making it an even more special experience.
Well, before we get to some of the future plans that Sabria teased out, let's talk about your role at Pensole and kind of how you developed the relationship with Dwayne and the organization, just so people have an understanding of your background.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting in that myself and Dwayne, we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary in a sense.
Nice.
Like not a lot of people know. In 2013, I was working on the Out of the Box Rise of the Sneaker Culture sneaker exhibition that happened in Toronto. I was relatively more younger at the time. I reached out to Dwayne. He was just kind of getting his feet underneath him, starting Pensole Academy, to come in and be a guest speaker for the exhibition. At that time, I was really just getting started. I didn't even really know what a partnership and a program truly was. I was more in museum curation mode. And then we had a really good experience, and we went out to dinner after he did his guest talk. And then I just shared with him like my aspirations of not necessarily getting into footwear industry to be a designer, but like the business side of it. And then 10 years later, like we just kept staying in touch throughout my career. Like I've worked for a couple different companies, learning the business of footwear and sneakers, and also playing in the arts and culture side. And he kind of mentored me. And then in 2023, in 2021, I bumped into Dwayne at a Detroit Pistons game. And I was actually getting ready to make a decision to work at another pretty popular retailer. And then he was like, I'm getting ready to start this thing called Pensole Lewis College. And I was like, oh, wow. Like I had no idea like the impact he was really trying to make, but I always had a vision of potentially working with Dwayne in the future on something big. Long story short, I decided not to take the job with the retailer and come on board with Pensole Lewis College and become their director of partnerships. One of our first projects that we worked on when I came on board was BFF, which took, I think it was a 2.5 year hiatus or maybe even longer.
Around 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, we did some virtual stuff, but for sure from an in-person perspective.
From an in-person perspective. And, and we had an amazing year, and not only just us, but what we were able to do for the city of Detroit and bring all of the tastemakers from the footwear industry and introduce them to the great city of Detroit was pretty amazing. So it took us 10 years to get here, but yeah, that's how myself and Dwayne met. And I'm now the director of partnerships for Pensole Lewis College.
That's amazing. I did not know that story, and we often unveil really cool stories on this program that we're unaware of. And it almost seems divine that you were just at a Pistons game and you ran into them. And was this a Detroit-based retailer with a .com presence? I assume.
No, it was I haven't even really. Not many people even know this, but so Kith was getting ready to start a foundation, and I was considering being their executive director. I actually had the contract in hand to get ready to take on the job, but then I felt like the impact of Pensole Lewis College would outlive me and Dwayne, and because of our relationship for a decade, it just made more sense. But not saying Kith was an amazing opportunity. It's just the legacy of what Pensole Lewis College was to me was like a lifelong dream to kind of help my big brother build something that's going to outlive all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an awesome story.
Mm-hmm.
That is an awesome story. Now, Sabria, I don't often do this, but let me ask you a question as my co-host. Working with Dion over the last year, what are some of the key things that you think make Dion so successful in his role and such a critical part of the Pensole family?
Well, he's super organized, which I love because I'm super organized. So I think we kind of align there because we're always one step ahead of everything that we need to do. Also, he's just a visionary. He constantly has new ideas and really challenged me to think much bigger than what I previously thought. And also just to think a little bit, to stretch my thinking more, I would say that. And so I definitely appreciate working with Dion. He's been a true help. Like I said, a lot of the success of last year is owed to Dion. So shout out to Dion. Kudos to Dion.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, I learned he's an early morning guy. Like I barely get my coffee going, and I got like emails from him about different things. So, which I am too. So I appreciate that. So
I will say, just to echo that, as much as I would love to say it was all me, it was not. It was LB, was a major force. Jenna, Glenroy Hayes. It was a really team effort. A lot of times I'm probably leading the charge, but they're the ones making sure I'm not going crazy. So I want to make sure I give them their flowers as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So why don't we walk through what's in store? Sabria, you teased it out. So why don't the two of you kind of walk through what we expect to have happen this month and into the future with the Black Footwear Forum?
We can start off with the podcast, which I think is super exciting. I think the biggest takeaway from the national event was just to keep the conversation going. And so that's what we're doing starting next month, is keeping the conversation going. And Dion is our host, along with Lachey from the RG Berry Brands. But Dion is here just to talk more about the podcast and just tell us a little bit more about what we can expect, what the conversations are going to look like, maybe even some guests if you have any names already.
We haven't got to the guests yet, but the podcast, what we really want to focus on is a theme that Dwayne came up with, black lights, of like shining the black light on people of color inside of the footwear industry that many probably don't know exist. The conversation on the podcast that we're developing is some of those, like exactly that, like what have people done to get where they're at? Not always just like the sexy stuff that I did. It took me 10 years and I made $1 million, but more like, when I ran into a challenge, how did I figure that out? How did I find mentors inside of the footwear industry where there's not a lot of people of color to knock on doors and find information from? So that's kind of the path that we want to go down. Pathways being kind of the focus, pathways of people's career, and bringing in people that have not only sneaker design careers, but like, project management careers, people who help the people who are always seen, like the Dwayne Edwards doing super well, but like, who are the people beside him, and what are their stories, and like, how have they pushed through? It's not always the challenges, but how have they built a career inside of the footwear industry is going to be the focus of the podcast. So as far as like who is going to be on it, I'm going to be knocking on doors to figure that out, because I feel like there's so many great people that we can choose from. But yeah, that's kind of going to be the focus.
I love that, because, and Dwayne's talked about this for years, just in the design space, that a shoe box represents, 10 to 12 jobs that people don't even think about when they're engaging with the brands as consumers or as fans or mega fans or whatever. And if you broaden that out just beyond design into compliance and sourcing and marketing and retail, I mean, there's dozens and dozens of jobs that aren't necessarily being an athlete sponsored by a brand, or some of the sexy side that we all would love, that we all dreamed of being when we were kids, and providing that exposure and developing more diversity and within like the supply chain aspect of it.
Yep.
Right now, the shoe dog world's like old white dudes, and I would love nothing more than there'd be a diverse collection, like a mosaic of people that tackle the supply chain and are going to Asia and are engaging with product at the factory level, and exposing a broader group of the community to those opportunities, I think, is really critically important. So my hope is the podcast can tap in to some of those voices that can educate people what the opportunities actually are.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, the key word mosaic there, I like that you use that versus a melting pot, because
Right.
I just feel like a mosaic is a better picture of the community that BFF is trying to build. Another key word being community, in that, we can't have, I think we had a couple hundred people show up last year. Not everyone in that crowd could be a sneaker designer. So
Right.
right. It's just impossible. So, it's our job, not only through the podcast, but also through just what we're building, to bring awareness to like, where are the other opportunities to work in the footwear industry. I find a lot of people who want to be in the footwear industry, really truly just want to be part of the footwear community. And how can they make that employable or get employment in the footwear industry? Sneaker design is usually what we're leading with, but there's just so many other opportunities, like you just outlined, like supply chain, project management, color and design. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can get in doing what I'm doing, like the business side. We also need more people who want to do programs and partnerships, right? Because they have a different point of view. And then just opening some doors for the next generation to hold the torch, and hopefully we can leave them with some jewels that they can continue to build a new path as well.
Man, I love talking with you, Dion. It's jewels and flowers and all kinds of like really cool things that we're handing out and passing along. Mosaics. Sabria, beyond the podcast, what are some things that you're most excited about in 23 about the Black Footwear Forum? I think from my perspective, it's almost a maturation process as we grow and learn. We have these regional meetups. We're learning and we're editing as we go to make it the best experience for the Black community within our industry as possible, because Lord knows they deserve it and they have earned it, and we want to provide it. So what are some of the things that you're most excited about for 2023?
I'll probably say the regional meetups. I believe I've talked about it before, but every single one that I've been to has just been amazing, super eye-opening. The connection that I've made to this day are still very strong. And so I'm most excited about the regional meetups and just being able to be in a room of Black professionals that, look like me, talk like me, I can relate to. It's just an awesome feeling. And just also just seeing people in those rooms network with one another, get jobs, increase their funds, just all types of things happen in those rooms. And so I'm just super excited about those. We're back again in all the cities that we were last year: Atlanta, New York, Boston, Columbus, Portland. So I think I'm most excited about that. And then we also are bringing back our national event, September 14th, which I'm also really excited about. Because if you were there last year, you know how great of a time it was, how much knowledge was shared. So I think those are the two things I'm most excited about this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Dion, as you think about kind of ways in which to build, and you heard Sabria's priorities for the year, particularly in the regional meetup side, how important are those meetups play into the success of the national event that was Detroit last year? And what do you think we'll do a little bit differently in Detroit 2023?
I would say the regional events are super important. It's because it builds momentum towards Detroit. There's still a lot of people who don't truly understand how to get into the footwear industry, and getting to Detroit as your first step could be a little bit intimidating because it's just, a couple hundred people. So it's like going to your regional event, getting warmed up to the idea, meeting some people, and have familiar faces by the time you get to Detroit. I would definitely advise that because I just think Detroit is overwhelming if you haven't seen it before, but definitely worthwhile. I think one of the things I'm super interested or excited about, I should say, is the integration of more kind of like social moments for people to connect. I think last year we did a really great job of having a series of strong panels. This year, what I'd really love to do is have some breakouts, some micro sessions, so there's more time and ways for people to connect. And then also, I know Sabria and I have been speaking about potentially having some form of like a marketplace that we can show up and coming designers or people from the community and give them an opportunity to connect with people that are at the national forum and build some business as well.
Yeah, I love that. One of the eye-opening things for me at the National Forum last September was just the diversity of experience that was represented in the room, right? You had the big brands, of course, the Jordans and the Nikes and the Audis and so on and so forth, all represented. You had some, the Steve Maddens and the R.G. Berries. So the industry was well represented. But then you had aspiring designers, students. There was a pastor from Chicago, brought young men he was mentoring, who rode in a bus over. It just attracted just this amazing kind of collection of people with different experiences and coming from different perspectives, but all seeing the power of a shoe. And we lose sight of something that's so kind of just standard in our lives that we throw on. And the three of us maybe don't lose sight of it because it's part of our job, right? But from a broader perspective, you can't imagine how a shoe or a pair of shoes or the design of a shoes brings together people from all walks of life to talk about how do we improve the industry that does drive this product out to consumers. And so to me, that was a huge blessing because we host a lot of events in our space and a lot of it's business focused, and the thought of a pastor driving with guys to a sourcing summit, it's like, that's never going to happen. But the Black Footwear Forum that happened. And to me, it was just a testament to the purpose of the organization and the cause that it is and the just cause that it is, because it's critically important. And I'm nothing but bullish about it, particularly with you guys at the helm kind of driving it, because I think there's so much opportunity for it to serve our folks and serve them well.
I think what's interesting about what you just said, and I think this is something strong, is usually people are, going in groups to a sneaker release at a retail spot. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was amazing to see people really figure out how to get to Detroit for career navigation versus being a consumer. And I think that to me is powerful because it says, especially being on the Black side, like we're usually the best consumer, like we're driving culture, we're changing things all the time. But on the career navigation side, we're not as aggressive, not because we don't want to be, just because a lot of times we don't have the gateway or the entryway to know how to do that. So that was super impressive to me of like, if we still have a long way to go, that was a great first step in seeing so many people of color interested to know how to get into the footwear industry versus like, your $300 waiting in the cold to buy Jordans.
That's right. That's my kid. Yep, exactly. Well, I think that's where the BFF bridges the gap, Sabria. I think for me, it is, to Dion's point, it's where we can kind of shrink that gap between the consumer side with the Black community and the professional side. And that's kind of been my point all along. Like, not only is it morally right to do the Black Footwear Forum, it's right by business. It's better for business to represent internally who they serve externally, right? And Absolutely. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be serving yourself well or the community well. So there can be a selfish motive as well for the brands, and we can point that out without any shame. And so, Sabria, as we kind of close out the conversation, I want to give you the last word about your closing thoughts about next steps and the importance that the Black Footwear Forum plays for not just the Black community, for crying out loud, but for the entire footwear industry in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I think just diversity in general in the industry is important. I think it's what creates innovation. I think it is what creates new ideas, and is what overall is going to keep businesses growing and thriving in the future. Your marketing departments, your supply chains, development departments, everyone can't look alike. The idea can't be monotone. And so you do kind of have to create a mosaic, as though, like we've been talking about, to really continue to be successful in the future. And I think that's what the Black Footwear Forum is helping to teach others, just outside of the Black community. I think we're teaching everyone that. And so I hope, in the future, we can really just make an impact, and that one day it's not just all white males that we're seeing, in the executive suites. It's people of color. And so I'm really excited about what the Black Footwear Forum is doing and what we're going to do from here on out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Dion, can't thank you enough for your friendship, your partnership, and all the blood, sweat, and tears you poured into this project. We're super grateful. We feel very blessed to have the ability to partner with you and Dwayne and the entire Pensole family. And just thank you for coming on Shoe and Show to share your insights, your shoe story. And I'm so glad you ran into Dwayne at that Detroit Pistons game. I don't know about Sabria, but I'm super glad.
I'm happy too. It was a stressful time making that decision, but, we had a really heartfelt conversation, and I'm happy where it landed. So cool. Thank you both for having me on.
Yeah, man, no problem. Folks, this has been another great edition of Shoe and Show. We are almost up on our 7-year anniversary of recording this program, which is hard to believe, but check out all of our episodes at shoeandshow.com. Make sure you subscribe, rate us, share us with friends and family. And if you have an interest in being a part of the Black Footwear Forum, you can go to blackfootwearforum.com to see all the great work that's being done through this collective action between FDRA and Pensole. And if you want to sponsor, we have a number of great partnerships and sponsorship opportunities that will allow you to engage with the broader community and allow you to support this good initiative, be a part of the regional meetups in the cities that Sabria mentioned, be a part of Detroit. There's so many opportunities to partner with us, and it's for a good cause. And so we would encourage you to reach out to ourselves. Just shoot an email to info@fdra.org, and we'll get you the sponsorship information that we think you should take a look at for sure. So with that, thanks for listening. And until next time, Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.